So today we're going to be talking about the new Executive Order 2020-183, as well as the Grand Rapids Virtual Bridal Show and fall photos.
I'm really excited. So the first thing, obviously, that you mentioned is the executive order, which is very interesting because it's going into place October 9th. And
Yes.
So that is coming up very, very quick, which is why we wanted to talk about it now. But specifically in regards to gatherings and events, it's a little bit confusing because there are areas within this executive order that make it look like you can have up to 500 people. However, you can only have 20 people per 1,000 square feet.
Correct.
And that's all for indoor events, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so instead of being limited to 10 people inside, which was what we currently have had per the last executive order, for non-residential indoor gatherings and events, now must limit the attendance to 20 people per 1,000 square foot, or 20% of the fixed seating capacity. So it's like either or. And then you also have to make sure you do not exceed the maximum of 500 people, because like some of these larger music halls or event performance places, if you can fit like 2,000 people, they're saying you maximum can only fit 500 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's interesting because there are still those restrictions even within some of these bigger things.
Yes.
Within these executive orders, like no matter what, you're still required to wear a mask. You're still at least some type of facial covering when you are indoors, especially.
Correct.
The other part that's interesting is the way in which it's worded for outdoor events is a little bit different.
It has changed.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So currently what we have is you can have 100 people outdoors, and that includes not only your guests and you, but also all of your vendors. So all of those people combined are 100 people.
Correct.
But this is now saying, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, you can go for it.
Well, I'm interested because this is now saying that an outdoor social gathering or event can have more than 100 people, but fewer than 1,000 people.
Correct.
And that is occurring at a non-residential venue.
Correct. And it also says that you can have 30 people per 1,000 square foot.
Yes.
And it's saying that you can only have 30% of your fixed capacity rate for that outdoor area.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't exceed, your maximum is 1,000 people for that outside. So I'm guessing the only thing that's going to be outside at that point in time is maybe sporting activities, or possibly people are starting to do outdoor concerts, like drive-in theater style concerts.
Yeah.
Just because you can fit a lot of cars and people can be safely seated in their car, less contact. So I think we're going to see more of that happening. But yeah, it's changing for outside events as well.
Mm-hmm. So as far as weddings go, what do you think that means? So October weddings themselves are difficult. You and I were talking about this, and we've been talking about this. October weddings are a little bit iffy, and we're going to talk more specifically about that next week.
Yes. Yes. October is here, but yes, we're going to be talking about that next week.
But the weddings themselves are difficult anyways, because when you have outdoor events, you're talking about weather issues, you're talking about like different sunset times, you're talking about like a lot of things there. So when you have this executive order, I would love to hear your opinion about what this means for outdoor weddings. Do you think that they're going to change? Do you think they're just going to stay the same?
I think they're going to slightly change. I think that we're really going to have to consider, it's going to change also because the weather's changing. So we really have to take a look at what is considered enclosed as indoor and what is considered outdoor, because I believe it's like 3 sides of a tent is technically enclosed.
Yeah.
So if you have 3 sides on your tent and one side is open, that does not mean that you can be an outdoor venue, I don't believe. I know that we're still kind of trying to seek clarity on that, but a lot of venues, if they have like a rolling door, they're opening that up and saying they're outside. But I don't know if that actually technically classifies. You can have outside air, but you have 3 sides of your building. So just having one side open, I don't know if that completely works. I don't know if that fits the bill really.
Yeah. So really what that's telling us still is that you have to contact your venue no matter what. And also the rental company should be the ones being able to tell you this information as well, correct?
Correct. And I think that overall with the venue or with a tent, I think it comes down to a percentage. I believe it's at 75% or more is covered, then it's indoors.
Gotcha.
If it's under 75%, if it's like 50 or 60% is covered and the rest is not, then I think you're considered outside. So it's really tricky. It's very tricky. So it's kind of a fine line, you're doing that little dance just to see what you classify as. And I do think that you have to contact beverage vendors are going to be liable. If they do anything to receive a fine, they also could get their license removed. So there's a lot of things at stake here that I don't know if a lot of people are taking in consideration. They just want to try to get married and they want to try to have the event that they wanted from the very beginning, but you really have to take in consideration what that will look like. And most people have been really good about it, but I know that there's others that think that they can kind of slide through with something. And maybe they have been, but I don't know if it's 100% up to legal standards with the regulation because it's still an executive order.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people, I think that there are those exceptions where people have gone over the order, the current one, but I don't think that's the vast majority. So I think the vast majority of people have tried to be very careful.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, I think have had lower attendance just because they either have family out of town that don't want to travel. They just send the regards or try to, if somebody wants to go the Zoom route where they get to see and experience it from afar, or they just really have their closest near and dearest. I definitely think that between like the 40 people to like 60 people events have been most what I've had this whole season. Last weekend was our first. We've had 2 weddings now that have almost hit the 100 mark. And those were the closest ones really with vendors and guests. So those were the 2 biggest ones that I've had, but the rest have been really good.
Yeah. So actually that brings up a very interesting perspective. So I'm just a photographer. And so I always love hearing your perspective because you have like the planning, coordination, and floral aspect of everything.
Yeah.
Because my personal thought is that for my couples, if you are still getting married in October or November, and you already have major plans or backup plans, or like you're moving to like next year, my personal thought is just to keep things as they are right now. I want to know your thoughts on that, just because this does potentially mean you could have more people depending on if you qualify or not.
Yeah, it does. So for that question, you're just pertaining to like if people should keep their plans as is or if they should postpone. Is that more of the targeted?
No, not postpone. Like if they have the current plan to continue with their ceremony now and they're trying to get close to that 100 mark.
Oh, gotcha.
Do you think that they should invite some of those people that they have now potentially uninvited because of restrictions? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I mean, they can. I know a lot of people have, just when you get close to 100, I had a few guests this weekend because we were really close to we were like 93 with vendors and guests. And there was a few people who felt more comfortable just kind of like hang back or go eat their dinner at a cocktail table instead of like, at an actual table. I feel like some people might not feel very comfortable being around that many people yet. And I do think that that is something that the couple may need to like relay to their guests if they are going to have a larger increased amount of people at their event. I think they totally could invite more people. So if they have a wedding after October 9th where they can fit that many people in that kind of square footage. So, we had an 80 by 30 tent this weekend, and technically for outside, I think I could only have 72 people in it. And I think if it was to the current executive order, but we had like, what was it? I think we had like 82 people underneath the tent. So technically, I don't think that would be accurate, even though we were underneath the 100-person mark and we had tables 6 feet apart. Gotcha. So it's really interesting looking at that because from chair to chair, it was 6 feet, not table to table, which a chair would take about 1.5 to 2 feet. So really only have like 3 feet apart or 2 feet apart. And we made sure it was like from chair to chair, it was 6 feet apart. It was very spacious and very comfortable for guests. There was a lot of 6, some of the larger families had 6 people at them and other tables only had 3 or 4. And it was like just that family. Just because you can invite more people, you need to make sure if you can actually fit more people in your space. If you can fit more people and it's 30 people per 1,000 square foot for an outside venue space. So you know, you have to calculate your tent and what that square footage is. So if I have an 80 by 30 tent, I just calculate 80 times 30, and that's the square footage overall.
Gotcha.
So people really need to take in consideration, just because you can invite more people, you need to know if you can actually fit more people, because if you can't, then you're going to exceed the legal limit of what that space can have. So that is something that people really need to take in consideration. And they could be like, well, I have a huge yard, so of course I can fit more people. But if you plan on putting them all underneath a tent, it has to fit in that tent space very responsibly and be 30 people per 1,000 square foot inside of that tent. And with the weather changing, you're going to have a tent. It's either going to be cold or rainy. So you need some sort of coverage or lighting.
Right. Yeah, and that plays into like a lot of other things. But yeah, okay. So I think that pretty much covers like the overall executive order. I'll try and put a screenshot up on the video that we're going to have of this as well. So if you're listening to the podcast portion, there will also be a video portion that we're going to make. That way we can have the legal terminology that you can see and read.
And I do believe that there's one thing we didn't talk about real quickly with that, is that zone 6 and 8 is slightly different. And I think it's like 25 people or 35 people, but that's in like northern Michigan areas that they can have like 5 person more per 1,000 square foot.
Yes. Yes, it is northern Michigan, as in like the Traverse City, Petoskey area, and then the Upper Peninsula.
Yep, the Upper Peninsula.
Yep. So what we're primarily talking about today is all of the other zones.
Yep, all of the lower Michigan area.
All of the lower Michigan area. Which is still where a majority of our population actually is as a state, but that's
Yeah, I mean, both Detroit on the east side and Grand Rapids being more West Michigan, those are 2 very large wedding cities. And then you have like the whole southern Michigan region that is like kind of like a winery belt, really.
Yeah, it is.
And then the northern Michigan, but the weather will be colder up there. So, you know, it's interesting that they can fit more people. This whole time through executive orders, they can have more people in this space throughout this whole process. So I just think it's maybe that there's less traveling involved. I'm not sure what goes into play with that, but just want to make sure we mention the zone 6 and 8 too, because people might listen up there.
Yes. Thank you for putting that.
But yeah, so that's everything with the executive order, like you said, and we can go ahead and roll on to the next thing.
Yeah, good. So the next thing that we were going to talk about is actually something quite interesting, because it is a virtual bridal show. So as a state, we are very used to in-person bridal shows where vendors set up a booth, they set up a little display, couples and or like, you know, if you have a bridal party member or a friend or family member who wants to come through with you, they usually come through, you talk to who you want to talk to. So this bridal show that we're specifically talking about today, because it's the only one that we've seen thus far, is actually Grand Rapids Bride.
Yes.
Which we will also link within like the show notes and all that good stuff. But it's I'm curious as to how this is going to go, because what it looks like and what you've told me about with everything that's happening here, Lisa, is that a couple will basically sign up for who they want to talk to, and then they have a 15-minute time slot with that vendor.
They do. Yep, they do. So they can select, you just have to sign up online. It's, you can go to grandrapidsbride.com and they usually have a magazine, and they usually have this big wedding show called it's called the Wedding Affair or the Grand Affair. And it's usually downtown at the Public Museum, but because there's no events happening right now at the Public Museum, even though they could now, but that's a different conversation for a different time. They are doing this virtual planning. And so brides can just sign up online. You fill out like your wedding date, maybe some of the things you're looking for. It's literally just check boxes in your email. And then they'll send you information. It's this Thursday, October 1st, and it's going to be from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And it's all virtual. So you sign up online. It's a free registration for any bride or groom or bridesmaids or somebody who just loves weddings. Somebody maybe who's even a vendor that just wants to know more about the show or talk to vendors. That'd be kind of weird because usually you're talking about them for like questions you need for booking, but not judging.
Whoever is free.
So then after that, you can choose like a time slot. Each vendor has a 15-minute time slot. that you can choose. So it's kind of tricky because there's only going to be 20, I believe it's like 28 to like 34 vendors that have actually signed up, when normally there's a lot more at the bridal show. So this is something very new, and it's going to be interesting because it's probably going to evolve since this is the first one. You know, you always kind of take in the notes and then change it from whatever you need to from there. Because at a bridal show, you might talk to 20 to 40 people. You know, so it's going to be pretty quick. And so if you really need to talk to a few vendors, now everybody doesn't need the same kind of vendor. You know, some brides might need the whole process plan. So from venue down to an officiant and transportation, you know, like photo, video, venue, all of that. They might need everything, and they're not going to have enough time possibly to talk to every single one of those vendors. They maybe be able to talk to like the top ones. So that's going to go fast. And so what you can do is that you can schedule a consultation with those vendors that you really want. Next year is going to be really crazy. So now is the time to get on top of your wedding planning. And I'm sure they're going to do one in the winter as well. But 2021 brides, you got to get on top of it because people are already filling up for next year. And I know that there's a lot of uncertainty right now, but you can at least pay a deposit and just make sure that vendor is willing to be flexible if you need to change your date. But I mean, I don't know how we're going to have enough vendors for next year with all the weddings that are needing to happen. But even 2022 couples, it's a little early to say that, but I know there's already some people trying to plan their wedding so they can just book their vendors and not stress about it and just come back to it in a year from now and get the final details done. That's okay to do. I know it sounds crazy, but it's okay.
Yeah. I totally agree.
Sorry, I went down a tangent a little bit. It's okay. Plan ahead.
It's all good, but you need to actually plan. So again, we're going to link this right into the show notes for the day so that you can check it out. Elisa's going to give us probably a little bit of a recap next week about how things went because this is coming up this Thursday. So yeah, we're looking forward to hearing what you guys all think about this. The last thing is because fall photos are coming up quickly. Hello Fall, it did happen. September 22nd was the official first day of fall.
Oh, where did time go?
Colors are already changing, as you might have guessed, outside. And there are lots of things that I'd like to discuss with fall photos, if that's okay with you, Lisa, if we move on.
Oh, absolutely. You totally take the reins on this, lady. Take it.
Yeah, so I think that fall photos are gorgeous, but they are super tricky. So there are things that you can look up that I would recommend. We're going to link one link in the show notes again that's going to state when the peak time for fall colors is, depending on where you live. So for instance, like October 5th, which is coming up next week, the UP is really going to be in peak season. So if you're going to be in the Upper Peninsula at all, it's there. It's basically already happening right now too. We're seeing these gorgeous photos from Northern Michigan. However, if you're a little bit lower than the UP, places like Saginaw Bay and Grand Rapids, we start to see peak season around October 12th. And that might change a little bit depending on weather, but probably the week of October 12th is when we're looking at it. After that,
for my husband's birthday.
What was that?
So that's the day before my husband's birthday.
Oh, well, great. Yes, he's getting peak fall season this year. And it's, again, a little bit different based on the way how the climate has gone and all of that. But the week of October 19th is when like places like Metro Detroit, Kalamazoo, and I believe places even on the, towards the lake, that's when we're starting to see more of a peak season there. So those are like the 3 biggest weeks for peak season when it comes to fall colors, which means that if you are getting engagement photos done during that time, it is so busy for photographers. And most of us, if you're a wedding photographer as well, you still have a wedding on the weekend. And if you still have a wedding on the weekend, you only basically have Sundays available, and only part of Sundays because you have to recover from the day before.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And so most of the time when it comes to fall photos, I recommend that if you can schedule during the week, that's amazing. The time change has not currently happened yet. So 6 p.m. is still a really good time. I think if you want like a golden hour sunset type of look, if you could take like, honestly, if people could take like a lunch break, that would be amazing to have fall photos taken during that time of day. But I understand it's not really possible for everyone, but it is crazy busy for photographers. And so you need to be really paying attention to what is happening as far as your schedules go, and probably scheduling now if you haven't already scheduled. The other thing I'd recommend is looking at your outfits. Because I think most people, and Lisa, maybe you can agree with this, most people when they think of fall, they think of like super casual. And I would actually disagree. That's not the way you want to go.
I would totally agree. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Most people think like, oh, I just want to do jeans and like a long cardigan. But you really need to pay attention to how your outfit looks, because the fall colors actually really, they can affect the way how your outfit looks a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So you want to avoid things with like a large pattern on them. So like big, bold stripes, you want to stick away from that. I know that most people, like their go-to is to go with like black on black on black. I would actually integrate some color. Yes. I'm wearing black right now.
But I'm wearing black and gray, but yeah, that's me.
Yeah. I would think about integrating some color in there. And a lot of people think like, well, because it's fall, I want to go with like maroons or deep reds. I might actually stick away from that too, just because it takes away from the colors of the trees themselves. Mm-hmm. So blues are wonderful. Greens,
like a navy.
Navies, yes. Navies, blues, anything tan or camel colored looks so gorgeous in the fall, because it allows you to look really nice and elegant really easily, while allowing all the fall colors just to play into how you look.
I love the neutrality of that, of having the tan, like a nude or beige colored. I didn't think about that. I really like that. Plus, it is contrasting with the warm tones of the fall. Yeah, it's happening all around. I love that.
Yeah, and I think it's something that people don't really think about, but I wish they did, because it looks so good, so effortlessly.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, even if you were to do like jeans and like a tan, a tan sweater, you would look 10 times more put together just with that. Yeah.
So I also have a question for you for engagement photos. Would you suggest couples to have like a few different styles so they could do like an outfit change or 2 or 3?
Yeah, my couples, I always say 2 outfits.
Okay.
One is a much more dressy one.
I like that.
Yeah.
Like girls can have one dress and they can get the jeans on. I love that.
Yeah, yes. And so I always recommend like the more formal outfit first. So one of my favorite places is Rent the Runway.
Yeah.
And you can actually just rent the dress or outfit for the day, and that way you can return it. You don't have to go try and find a brand new outfit when it can come right to you. I always love it when a guy is dressed up in like just a very simple like dress shirt. Always looks nice. If you would like a suit jacket, I mean, I love that look, but not everybody does, and I totally understand that. But then to go into like the jeans look, it just makes sense. You know, you've got 2 different looks going on, and yet you both look put together, and that's kind of the fun of it. Yeah, so I always recommend it. And one of the easiest things too for guys, which I think most people don't think about, is if you were to take something a little bit more formal, like with a suit jacket, and he were to simply take that off, he now looks a little bit more casual for your casual outfit.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be like a full body change necessarily, because especially sometimes when it comes to guys, they don't like to get changed multiple times in one thing. Whereas sometimes us women, definitely like, no, I'm going to have this pair of earrings with this specific thing. This is going to go. I'm ready for 16 outfits. I got it. I will do what is needed to do. They just sometimes don't care.
I do like the look when guys wear like semi-dress shoes, jeans, a button-up shirt, and then like, I call it business cash. Like, you have like that suit jacket or like, what is it when it's like a tweed jacket and it usually has like more like leather padded on the elbows? There's a special name for it. I should know this, but I'm not ringing a bell right now.
Let's go look.
I can't remember what it's called. I feel like it's something very collegiate, like. But I love that look too. Like I know when my husband's like kind of dressy, but not fully like full suit or full tux, then he'll wear like the dress shoes, the jeans, button up, and then he'll throw like a suit jacket on. And I love that look. And you don't have to have like the tie or anything like that, but it looks like classy and somewhat sophisticated. And then you could easily, like you said, take that jacket off, and then you just have the button up. Right. Then you have that. I do feel like a lot of guys wear plaid for engagement photos. So when you're talking about like not too much pattern and especially stripes, I was like, oh, does that affect plaid too?
It does. Yeah, it really affects. Yeah, plaid goes in and out a lot of being like, yes, it works, or no, it does not. And I can't necessarily like tell you what type of plaid it is. So I usually just ask my couples to stick away from plaid.
Okay.
It's really, it looks good visually, like to the naked eye. And your camera, especially with kind of the way how I edit, my camera goes like nuts. It's like, oh, I have no idea what's happening. And sometimes it can actually even take away, in the photo itself, when you see the photo, it can almost take away from the two of you, because the plaid can be so bold at times that it takes away from like your faces. And I know that seems cliche and everybody loves plaid, but it goes in and out of if it works or doesn't work for a photo.
I think it's good to hear. I feel like you hear fall and the first thing you think of is plaid, like, because I know I would. So I was like, oh, I wonder if plaid is considered that, because like, heck, I think in my engagement pictures, shoots. Sorry, I was trying to say pictures and shoots at the same time. I feel like ours was like, we didn't do it formally. I regret to say that we didn't do like a formal picture. It was just like a picture we took at a winery, and we really kind of loved it as, you know, just using that for our save the date. I think I was in like a burgundy top and jeans, and I think Aaron was in like a brown, navy, and white plaid, but it wasn't fall time yet. So it was just done in front of like a bunch of greenery. It was like, you know, just kind of like a greenery background. So luckily, so do you think if it was more of like a neutral setting like that, then plaid does kind of work? But with obviously fall colors, like you're going for fall. So you got to kind of plan accordingly with that.
Yes. Yeah, no, exactly what you're saying too.
I was like, oh my God, did we do the no?
Yeah. Well, it seems like such like an oxymoron, because again, everybody thinks, oh my God, fall, I want my plaid shirt. I know you love it. I would stick away from it for photos though, because like you said, like when there's a neutral backdrop, like all green, it totally works. But once you have like all of the fall colors happening, plus you guys, plus then this pattern, the eye, when a person sees the photo, their eye can't focus on any one thing. So they'll find themselves darting all over instead of looking at you two, which is the point of the photo.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's also why like I love like the camel tones or like neutral tones, because that just plays into complementing the colors that are all around you while still allowing you to shine.
I like that. I like it a lot. I definitely think that camel, beige, tan, nude, champagne color, I really like that. And I feel like brides nowadays really want to dress lighter, because as a bride, you get to wear white. And I feel like they want to go lighter or even a little bit more formal anyways, because it's like you're only going to be, I mean, most people are only a bride once. You might be a bride twice, and that's okay. But like, you know, I just think that people really want to like make sure they enjoy that special moment. So I love the idea of having like being dressy in the lighter color, in that beige color. You know, it's almost like a preemptive to your lighter dress that you're going to wear that's going to be white or ivory or champagne or even blush. Who knows? I mean, that's more traditional. You could have a black wedding dress for all I know, and that is okay. Like,
that is okay.
But have fun with that. I know I personally, during the summertime, I was really loving seeing the motion of dresses like near the beach kind of setting. I really love that. So I think it's going to be really fun for people to have the dress to play with and be fun and flirty, and then to get comfortable and cozy and make some, take some like more snuggled up kind of pictures.
Yeah, fall is a super fun time to photograph. But it's also, I think one thing I haven't mentioned here, specifically when it comes to fall engagement photos, is I would actually plan for multiple dates, because the weather is so unpredictable here. And especially the more you get into October, the more unpredictable it gets. I think even yesterday was a good example of it. Yesterday was supposed to be 80% chance of rain, and it rained like until noon, and then it was done. It was gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, this morning it was kind of raining here, and then now it's beautiful and sunny, and it wasn't supposed to rain. So I don't think even the morning was supposed to rain, but there was a little bit of rain happening, and then it's good. Yeah, it's definitely inconsistent. That's for sure.
Yeah. So when you're scheduling with your photographer, I definitely recommend scheduling 2 different dates. And ideally not like one right after each other, like a week later, which is also why photographers have a much more difficult time because we're scheduling multiple days for just like one couple to try and make sure that we can accommodate everyone. So it's very fun and slightly difficult. So the more proactive you are in scheduling, just the easier time you have.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah. So anyways, I love fall photos. They're super fun. I've accepted that fall is here now, personally, after September 22nd. At the beginning of summer, I'm still a summer birthday, so I just want my summertime birthday just to happen, and then I'm fine. But those were the 3 topics that we had for today. And do you want to talk a little bit about what do you want to go into what we're going to be talking about next week as I start over my words there?
That's okay. It happens. Yeah, next week we're going to be talking about how to accommodate and plan for lovely Michigan weather and the inconsistencies and the unknowns that Mother Nature may throw our way, and how to plan and accommodate that for a wedding day.
It will be very, very fun. But
so we're going to be talking about all those things that you don't want to happen weather-wise on your wedding day.
Yeah. Those fun things really that you don't want to think about. All right. Yeah. Well, we will talk to you all next week.
Yeah, that's it for this week, and we'll talk to you next week. I'm so excited.
Bye.
Bye.